Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. Greg Chris, along with Frank Fear. Last Wednesday of October. Frank, welcome in. And we've had a pretty good past few days and looking forward to another chance Saturday. So hopefully we're trending upward a little bit after Saturday's game. Feel a little bit better about what's going on and hopefully we can get it done. We've got another great guest tonight, as always. Thanks to some of our friends that take care of putting these guys together. It's awesome, and we're thrilled about having him with us. We'll introduce him here momentarily, but I want to welcome you into the show.
Well, I hate to start with a baseball phrase, but Mark Parsons, who does the so much of the hard work behind the scenes to line up our guest, is batting about 750, and
Yep.
Heard so much about Matt Wracher, and we're going to have him here in a few minutes. And it's good seeing you and Mickey and Darren again. We were just together face to face on Saturday at Colasante's in Westover on Fairmont Street, and what a great experience that was, I'll tell you.
Yep, totally. Colasante was Anthony. I think he said he goes by. What a great host and what a great establishment. And that was a lot of fun. And I said, we had talked about another place we were thinking about doing it. I think it worked out so well there because it wasn't nearly as chaotic as it was the last time we were up there. And it was a little bit more enjoyable to do the show and actually do a show rather than just having people yelling back and forth at each other all night long. So it worked out pretty nice. And when we bring Matt in, I know I don't want to let you cat out of the bag, but he does have a story, Colasante story for us. And while he was telling us before we got on the air, I kept thinking back to this movie I saw called The Nutty Professor with the Clumps with Eddie Murphy. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's a real heavy-set family. They go to the buffet and destroy it. And everybody in the place is just staring at him with their eyes wide open. So I thought, perfect story. I've seen that in a movie before. Anyway, we'll get to that here in just a minute. But glad to see Mickey. Mickey's in the back room as well. Mickey joined us up there Saturday. We had a good time. And Mickey, it's good to see you. Hope you're feeling better.
I certainly am. Greg, had a great weekend up there with you guys. All the way from Friday evening, starting with the Bobby Bowden era celebration, homecoming, and the parade downtown. I got to see some old friends at Mario's, and then went to the reception Friday night. Got together with some fellows I played with on the offensive line back in the 60s, Saturday morning for breakfast, and then teaming up with you and Frank to do the show, go to the game. It was a long, very enjoyable weekend.
Well, glad you made it through it, and glad you're feeling better as well. And it was a big weekend up there, and nice crowd for the game. My son went, and he said the atmosphere was awesome, and did some new features, things during the game. It was really fun, and the team played pretty well and had some chances. We'll get to all that here in just a little bit. We'll talk about the game Saturday, then we'll talk about our upcoming opponent this coming Saturday and what our expectations are. But I'm not going to take any more of that time away. And Frank, I'll let you, if you want to introduce Matt, then I'll come back and talk to him a minute, and then pass it on to you and Mickey and let you guys follow up.
Great. Well, Matt is one of those guys that I hate to say fits the mold, but it's a positive mold. Guy came to Morgantown. He'll talk more about that. Played on the offensive line under Don Nealon. Great years in the late 80s. Great experiences he'll talk about. Great connections. I was telling him before the game that one of his biggest fans is Mike Fox.
Yeah.
And I think Mike is watching tonight. And, of
Awesome.
course, Mike not only was a great player in the Hall of Fame, but then went on to a great pro career with the Carolina. Most people know but he was on a Super Bowl championship team with the New York Giants. And like so many other guys that we've talked to, I mean, this is the amazing thing. And it's such a pride is that Matt's gone on, like so many others, to have a tremendous career. His is in finance and business. He's now in the Cleveland, Akron area. He'll talk about that. So, it's the full package. And we're gonna talk with Matt in a few seconds. And so why don't I get out of here so we can bring in Matt Wracher.
Good evening, everybody.
All right, there he is, Matt.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. Welcome to the show. We appreciate you. And as Frank said early on there, that we have been amazed. It seems like week after week after week when we do this show with the guests we have on, and we find out that we start reading bios and reading history, and it's amazing what all the guys that we've had so far have accomplished since their playing days at WVU, and you're no different than that. And we'll get onto that here in just a few moments. But want to start out. You're originally from in Ohio, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, small town called Richfield, Ohio, just south of Cleveland, north of Akron.
Okay. Let's talk about, first of all, your journey to WVU, your playing days in high school, and how you ended up at West Virginia.
Yeah, I went to a small high school by the name of Revere High School. And although small at the time, it had a great football program under Coach Joe Papano. And believe it or not, I was a center, but the most prolific center to come out of Revere High School was a guy by the name of Andy McCullum, who played 14 years in the NFL.
Yep.
And was just inducted here in the Summit County Hall of Fame, along with Mike Fox as well, that you mentioned, who was my freshman roommate. I love him dearly. But I took my visits like everybody else did. Right, I went to Pitt and Michigan State, Purdue, West Virginia were my official visits, along with North Carolina State. And there's something about the place. I'll never forget. I went down to take my official visit, and of course met Coach Nealon and the staff. A great coach by the name of Russ Jakes recruited me, who has since passed. And I'll never forget walking into the facility, and my hosts for the weekend were a great linebacker out of the Cleveland area by the name of Eric Lester, who still holds records at St. Edward High School here in Cleveland, and Brian Joswiak, and a guy by the name of Jack Kessler, who might ring some bells for you. And it was, to say the least, it was a crazy time because, if you remember back in those days, Brian and Jack had big mohawks and they were larger-than-life personalities, and they entertained us for the weekend and took us out, and it seemed like a great fit and an up-and-coming program in terms of commitments to new facilities and whatnot. And excuse me, it was just under 3 hours away from home. I thought my family could come and see me play, and it just felt like the right place. And I made my decision right then and there after the end of the weekend. Awesome. So and by the way, it turned out to be nothing more than a stroke of luck, because what we went on to do as a team is and I mean this genuinely, it was life-changing. That is not cliche. It truly was. And all the things we experienced, you couldn't have painted the picture. Right.
You played at a time that all of us remember, of course, and what a time it was, Mountaineer football, and you got to experience some, the ultimates in the college football world with the national championship game. I'm curious. I don't know. I watched and went to lots of the games. Went to the Sun Bowl. I think you were part of that team. Yeah. And got to see that game. But it's linemen from that time. I mean, everybody talks about the undefeated team, and of course you had some phenomenal players, no question about it. The linemen always kind of get overlooked in those things, but looking back on it, especially in the championship game, the offensive line, and I've brought this up several times on here, if I'm not mistaken, were 5 fifth-year seniors on that offensive line, and I said you probably will never ever see that again.
No, they were a tight group, and I think this was written about years later, but I think it was the plan, or at least the idea of our offensive line coach, offensive coordinator Mike Jacobs, where if you take a look at 1988, the year we played in the national championship game against Notre Dame, we had two offensive lines. There was a starting offensive line, and then every third series we would roll in. And by the time the third and fourth quarter came around, we were fresh as fresh could be, and the opposing defensive line was tuckered out. They were just tired.
Yeah.
And the strategy worked. But you look at the 1988 offensive line, they were cohesive as all get out. I mean, they did some things without even having to talk to each other. I mean, it was just instinct at that point. So we had a heck of a lot of talent going into that season.
Yeah, I was going to. That was the point I was getting at. How you guys got overlooked, kind of. I mean, fans who pay close attention, like myself, recognize the names and your name and all of them, but a lot of people don't. They don't remember who the linemen were. But you guys, and like you said, there were two units that basically went in and out that played a lot. And again, all of us who watched and paid close attention knew that. But those are names that you don't hear when people are talking about that. That 88 team, for example. I mean, you had Major, and you had some great receivers and great running backs, and all that. You just don't hear the linemen mentioned very often. People forget those guys. But I know you haven't forgotten. And
right, we're used to it.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. That's the nature of the beast, I guess.
Right.
But I'm always, I look at that and I think, we're never probably ever going to see anything like that again. As far as, first of all, fifth-year seniors that will become never heard of, and
Right.
Then when you have that many linemen who are good enough to play, I mean, he wouldn't put you guys in those series if you weren't good enough and not knowing what the situation would be. You will come in regardless. So it obviously had plenty of faith in that second wave as well. So hats off to you guys. And if you will, why don't you mention a few of the names on that offensive line so people that don't know will know?
Oh, absolutely. Obviously, Kevin Koken and John Stroya were captains of the team. You had Bob Kovac at the right guard, Brian Smider. You had Rick at left tackle, and if you keep coming back, you had Jack Lynn at left tackle as well. John Ray and myself at right tackle. You had Scott Parker at another guard, and then Dale Wolfley. But people forget also, Jeff Price was a walk-on at West Virginia, ended up earning a scholarship and being a great starter at center. Later in his career, we all had to be patient because the line in front of us was very good. Yeah. So we were just happy to contribute any way we could at some points. Like I said, either through the rolling strategy that Coach Jacobs came up with, or on an occasional injury. But it was there. There's a lot of great talent there.
Yeah, I was going to say those are some. Again, the Mountaineer fans, those are some very familiar names, and again, back in that day when you watched, you knew every year who your linemen were going to be and who your running backs were going to be. You knew ahead of time because they weren't going anywhere. Everybody
Right.
stayed there.
Right.
And, you look back at Coach Nealon's career, and it seemed like every third, fourth, fifth year is when they really blew up and had an awesome team. And that was just building a program, building players, making them better, and that sort of thing. I got to ask this one question, and I've been trying to get over this, I don't know, since about 86 or 87. I'm still not over it, but I even had Major Harris on the show a couple of times. I've asked him twice. I'm still not over it. In the Sun Bowl, and I know we got the Fiesta Bowl we're talking about, but in the Sun Bowl, we scored with about a minute to go in the game and went for two to tie the game. And we called a pass play. And I always said, if I were Coach Nealon, I even told Coach Nealon this at Joe's Reacts golf fundraiser this summer, that if I were a football coach, which I'm not, and I had Major Harris, which I never did, when I called that timeout before that 2-point conversion, I think the only thing I would have said would have been, Major, we need 2 points. Can you go in there and get those 2 points for us? And
Right.
Major's like, no. We had a good play call. I just threw a bad pass. I'm still
Right.
convinced if we just let Major go get it, we'd have got it.
Greg, were you at the game?
Yes.
Now, I'll never forget this. Do you remember? It was Christmas Day. It's El
Yes.
Paso, Texas, right?
Yes.
We're
Yes.
we're 10 feet from the Mexican border.
Yes.
It's snowing.
Yes.
It snowed.
Yes.
We had no cold weather gear. Right? We went in the locker room before the game. We put Vaseline up and down our arms just to stay warm. And I was on special teams. I was on kickoff return, and just happy to get on the field, tickled to death, right? And I'll never forget. I tell my boys this. I'll never forget standing on the sideline as the game started. Thurman Thomas was the starting tailback, and Barry Sanders was his backup.
His backup. Yep.
Oh, wow.
And what a talented team that was.
Yes.
But people think about that like, oh, Barry Sanders was a stud. He was, but he was the backup to Thurman Thomas.
Yes, he was. I sure do remember that. Yeah.
But it was cold as the dickens.
Oh yeah. The thing I remember, we got there, we flew down, and some kind of package deal. Anyway, we're in the hotel, it starts snowing, and there were probably 3 or 4 inches of snow. We were wanting to go somewhere. So we go down to the front desk and we ask the guy, can we get a taxi? What do you, back then they didn't have Ubers or anything. And he said, man, you're not going to get anybody to take you anywhere tonight. We're like, why is that? And he said, have y'all looked outside? We're like, yeah, it's like 3 inches of snow. What's the big deal?
Right.
That place shut down. We were on the 14th floor of our hotel. You can see the whole city of El Paso. There was not a car anywhere moving. I mean, it was closed completely. And but yeah, we were right there by Mexico. We went over in Mexico on the day following the game and wore shorts. It was 75 degrees the day after the game, and so
funny.
Spent the day in Mexico, but that's a spot I've seen on the news since then. I wouldn't go back there for nothing. So anyway, it's not me. It's not about me here. I want to get Frank in. Let Frank talk to you a little bit and ask you some better questions than what I come up with. But I'm still fixated on that Sun Bowl and why we couldn't get that 2-point conversion. It's driven me crazy for 40 years, and I can't get anybody to say you're right. All we had to do is give it to Major and let him get it. But I don't know. Funny. Maybe that didn't seem fair to the other team. I don't know. Go ahead, Frank. Jump on in here.
Well, the first time I met Greg, this guy was walking down the street. Didn't look at me. He just kept on mumbling, El Paso, El Paso. And I wanted to help him, and look where that led. Just unbelievable.
Here you are today.
You know what? I'll tell you what. You guys were talking about the offensive lineman, and it reminded me of something that Tanner Russell shared with me about a year ago. And Tanner was he played offensive line about a decade after you did in the late 90s. And he shared with me a tribute to the offensive lineman. And it's so good, I've actually put this up on our website at the Voice of College Football. And let me just read part of it, because I think it speaks to the, particularly with Mickey here too, to what offensive linemen are. As an offensive lineman, the second you decided to put your hand in the dirt, you made a choice to toil away in anonymity, a choice to be blamed when something goes wrong, and the last one to be praised when everything goes right. You choose to get rid of any ego you may have, and you show up for every day to work. You give up the stars, the glory, and the stats for the personal knowledge of knowing that without you, the team has no chance of winning. Without you, the quarterback can't throw the ball, the running back can't gain yards, and the wide receiver won't have a chance to catch the ball. You understand that nobody cares about the lineman unless he does something wrong. You're taught to be violent, but also to be a protector, to play nasty, but also to retreat when the time calls for it. You must always have a take no prisoners mentality. You must go into the game knowing that despite who is lined up against you, no one is tougher, meaner, or better than you. Please know that you must show no mercy when you put on the helmet and put your hand in the dirt. And when the game is over, win or lose, you remain humble. Physical, tough, protective, that's your nature. It's all within a great lineman. When you choose to place your hand in the dirt, you become the least known yet most important member of the team. You come to practice every day, ready to work, prepared to fight, ready to make a difference in the next game. Not all who play can play in the trenches, but those who do will never be broken. I think that's just great.
That's beautiful, Frank. And I would love to see a copy of that.
I'll make sure you get it. And actually, we'll put it up again up on the website, but I'll make sure you get it personally. Does that make any sense, Mickey? You should get in here. Let me get out of here and to give you time because I took my time. But your thoughts, having been a great offensive lineman.
Well, thanks, Frank. It makes perfect sense. The one thing that Matt mentioned and I've mentioned in the past is when you play on the offensive line, you're part of a 5-person operating unit. There is no real individuality. The success or the failure that you have comes from operating as one person instead of 5 individuals out there. I'm sure Matt would agree with that. The other thing that I think goes unheralded from a lot of the fans' perspective is the mental aspect, the intellectual aspect of knowing your assignments, executing your assignment, and having the mental part of the game down just as much as you do the physical part of the game. If you're going out and you're knocking somebody's socks off, but it's the wrong guy or 2 guys are going after the same guy, it can have a devastating effect on things. So, Matt, I was just wondering if maybe you'd like to address that issue a little bit about the importance of the mental aspect of the game, playing on the offensive line, as well as the physical aspect of it.
Yeah, it's Mickey. We always joke, we're the smart guys up front, right? I mean, that's what we call ourselves. And by the way, the only reason we'd call ourselves that because nobody else would. So, the smart guys up front, had to know what the assignment was, and if something were to change immediately on the defense, you had to know exactly what you were going to do at any given time. I was kind of fortunate because I got shuffled around a lot, right? I went there as a center, then I became a guard, then I became a tackle. Actually, in one game against Cincinnati, I played all 3. I played center, guard, and tackle all in one game. And it wasn't, because I was phenomenal on the offensive line, but I knew the assignments of all things. And, people kept getting hurt and we'd go in. But if you don't know your assignments, it doesn't matter how athletic you are, how strong you are, even what your technique is. But if you don't understand the scheme, you have no shot of getting in because the coaches just don't have enough confidence to say, okay, he's going to execute exactly where we need him to execute. And when he gets to the second level, he's going to know exactly what to do when he gets there. But it is so important. And Mickey, you know this. I mean, offensive linemen hate to talk about themselves, right? They hate it. They don't like the limelight. They're not used to getting any limelight. It is they're gonna cast light on others because that's what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to let Major Harris get a touchdown and A.B. Brown and the rest of it. That's what we're supposed to do. So if there is any kind of spotlight on offensive linemen, it's because he screwed up.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only time you get any recognition is when you screw up.
Right.
I wanted to ask you about Dale Wolfley. You played with Dale.
Well,
good friend of all of ours. We all sure miss him. I loved it when he was running the varsity club at the university. That's when I first met him. He did so much to help us in our 69 Peach Bowl team. He put together a 50-year reunion for us in 2019. And then we got to know him through, the program. Just wondering if you had any recollections or any thoughts about Dale and any stories you'd like to share.
Mickey, I miss him. He, Dale was integral in bringing us all back together, if you will. We all kind of graduated, went on with our lives, raising families and whatnot. And Dale was, the first powerful force to say, hey, you guys need to come back. Right, let's bring us all back together, and he was good at it, right? Because everybody loved Wolf, right? You might not understand him because he was crazy as all get out, and we loved him for it. But you loved him, so you did what he asked. And his son was fortunate enough to come and play here at the University of Akron, and I made it a point to go down and talk to him because any son of Dale Wolfley's I had to meet, right? I'm like, okay, the genetics are powerful. Let me go see if he's as crazy as his dad is. And by the way, he was. So I miss Dale a ton, and just the occasional phone call or text or, hey, there's a group of guys coming down this weekend. You should come down. I mean, just that really was his calling. He was good at it. He was passionate about West Virginia. There was no questioning that.
A true Mountaineer, no question about it. Now, speaking of sons, you had 3 sons yourself. Are they involved in football, or are they at the high school ages? Or tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, I've got 3 boys, and by the way, they're all bigger than I am. But we've been really, really fortunate. So my oldest son Adam is a fireman paramedic here in the next adjoining town, right by the Hall of Fame, out of Canton. My middle son, Sean, is in the business here in the investment world with me. And Sean was fortunate enough to play at Indiana, and he just graduated 2 years ago. So my wife and I get to spend 5 years traveling all over the Big Ten every weekend, and just what an amazing gift. But he's still chasing the dream. He was in training. He was in mini camp with the Giants and mini camp with the Jets. So he's still chasing the dream a little bit while he's working with me. And then my youngest son, Bradley, is like a project engineer for a national construction company, lives in Chicago. We were just up a couple of weekends to see him. So my wife and I are empty nesters. And, it's lonely, frankly. We don't know what to do with ourselves. My kids, youth football, baseball. 2 of my kids played hockey. If you know anything about hockey, it's a cult. Right? It's the most – I kid around with them. I say it's the most expensive dead-end sport in the world, but I love it. I do it all over again. But we spent their childhood trying to support them any way we could, and it was a blast. I miss it dearly.
Hey, one final question for you. That helmet in the background there, is that your actual helmet from your playing days, or
I wish it was.
Thereof?
I wish it was, but that is a fake, if you will. My wife, Mindy, gave me as a gift a couple of years ago for Father's Day, and I wish I would have kept my original helmet. I wasn't smart enough to do that because I'd love to have it.
Yeah, we have a guy from our 69 team that played on the defense by the name of Dave Ben, and as we left the locker room after our final game, Dave found a way to take his helmet with him. He's from Ohio, up near Sandusky, by the way, also.
Oh, no kidding.
And every reunion that Dave comes to, he brings that helmet, and he brought it with him last weekend, and he wears it for every picture that's taken. And when you look at the signatures on there, I think he's got everyone ever played for the Mountaineers to sign that helmet of his.
You know what? I think I signed that a few years ago at Brian Josbeck's event.
Yeah, probably did.
By the way, if you look behind me, that grandfather clock, there's a musket sitting next to it, and that is from the event Brian puts on with Children's Hospital. Mike Fox happened to stay later than I did, and he called me up and said, "By the way, you won a musket at this raffle ticket I bought, I guess," and so he brought it back for him. But it's the real deal.
Oh, cool, awesome.
Well, it's great.
Great having you on the show. I was going to tell Matt that I tease Mickey all the time about his helmet, and he said he just folds it up, puts it in his pocket, and brings it wherever he goes. So I always tease him about that. It was so long ago that he played. And also, I heard you mention, and I know you guys have heard this, the center guard and tackle. That's what I did in high school. I sat on the center of the bench and guarded the water bottles, and I tackled anybody that got close to him. That was my job. So I played all 3 positions as well. Matt, after you left, talk about your life after. I know you have, like I said, you have 3 sons, empty nester at this point. But after you graduated from WVU, tell us a little bit about what happened from that point on up to now.
I'm going to condense this because it's long and colored. But I was in the international transportation business the division of CSX Railroad, a big company by the name of Sealand Service. And so for a couple of years after college, I was an account executive. Anybody importing from Asia, exporting to the Middle East or Europe, that I would handle in the Michigan, Ohio, and that kind of got me involved in the markets. Right, you had to understand what was going on in the economy. You had to understand fuel prices and currency adjustments and the like. And a friend of mine, his brother was back in the day what they called a stockbroker. He was a stockbroker, and I thought that sounds pretty neat. So I started doing some investigation, and in 1992, started a career at the time it was called Prudential Securities, and that was 34 years ago. And in 2003, I guess it was 2003, my partner and I, Bill Thomas, started our own firm, our own investment firm that has evolved and grown, and we have merged with another firm 2015, my partner Jason DeLauro, and it's been a ton of fun. We headquarters is in Akron. We've got some offices outside of Youngstown. We've got some offices in Western PA. We're kind of a small boutique firm, 25 employees, but we manage a sizable amount of money. We manage about $2.3 billion in assets for mostly individuals, trust, family office type work, some corporate work as well, and it truly has been a great career that I still enjoy. I love coming to work every day, and I didn't think having my son come in. He's got a finance degree from the Kelley School of Business at Indiana, so he's a sharp young man. But having him here has been a blast, and honestly, it's not to oversimplify it, but all it is football. It's blocking and tackling, right? It's show up early. It is a practice plan is no different than a business plan. It's defined to the finest detail, and you build a model day around it, and it's fulfilling. I mean, it really is, and I really think, like a lot of things in this world, some of the things you'll learn through sports, specifically if you're coached by Don Nealon, there might be somebody that knows more than us, but very few people can outwork us, right? If any, and that's how you get ahead, and that's what I teach my boys, right? I mean, there's only a few things you got to do to be successful. One is be on time or early. Second is do exactly what you say you're going to do. Right? If you say you're going to do something, you better do it. And those are all things we learned playing at West Virginia. I don't think when we talk about the offensive lineman at West Virginia, we didn't have a choice but to hone our craft. And it's not because we were phenomenal athletes, but if you look at who we had to practice against every single day, you talk about Chris Parker and Ronaldo Turnbull and Mike Fox and Patrick Marlette and Lonnie Brockman. And, you didn't have a choice. These are all NFL guys. You didn't have a choice but to get good, or you're going to get embarrassed every day. So, there's a lot to be said for who you're going up against every day, and learn, to hone your craft and get strong and do all the things you needed to do.
Very fascinating. We talked about the intelligence of the offensive lineman. I think obviously what you're talking about is way above my level. That's for sure. Always fascinating to hear those things. You mentioned practice and Coach Nealon. I know a lot of our viewers always love to hear stories about Coach Nealon. Give us your thoughts on playing for Coach.
He was tough but fair, and I was there 5 years. I never heard him curse, not one time. So he was very effective without being anything other than a gentleman. And I'll never forget it. Greg, you were at the Sun Bowl. I'll never forget coming back from Christmas break after the Sun Bowl, and the entire environment of the program changed, as if somebody flipped a switch. If you weren't serious, if you weren't focused, if you weren't in all the way, you were gone. And it's the first time I remember thinking to myself, okay, this is a business. This is a big business. Yeah. And there were guys that were asked to leave. and there were coaching changes, and it was a focus like I've never seen. And it sounds like it was all serious, and it was, but we still had a ton of fun, right? We still, I think Willie Edwards, I read an excerpt years ago from Willie Edwards. He was being interviewed, and he was spot on. We genuinely liked each other. I mean, we were, the entire team, 130 guys, we enjoyed each other's company, which is very, very rare. So Coach Nealon created an atmosphere that demanded respect not only of the coaches, but of each other. And it, to this day, I don't care if I had a teammate, colleague, any of us would drop what we're doing and go help that person out.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
Well, unfortunately, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well. I don't know that, we'll see that much anymore because of NIL and the transfer portal and all those things. And you've been in the finance world, you probably have a little better handle on it than most of us do. What do you see happening with, I think we all see what's going on right now. We all think that it's not sustainable, and it's not good for the game. It's definitely not good for the fans. Where do you see with the NIL and the transfer portal, and now, conferences talking about, getting with, financial folks and to lead them and that sort of thing. Where do you see all this heading, and how's it going to get lined out, straightened out, if you will?
Greg, it's a great question. I get asked this question all the time. It's got to change, and I am all for the players getting paid. I had teammates. I myself, went to college with no means, very little means, and so they need to get paid. Here's the problem: it's the wild, wild west. There's no governance, right? Why this money is not more contractual than it is? Why this money is not in trusts or structured settlements where you got to protect this 20, 21, 22-year-old young man from himself, right? You do. And I realize they're adults, but they don't know. And it's doing more harm than good, not only to the individual and frankly the families, but the programs. There's no reason to stay, right? We gelled and had great relations with each other because we had to, right? If you left in our day, you had to sit out a year, and it was taking a step backwards, a lot of risk, and I'm glad that's changed. However, it went way too far to the right, and they've got to put some structure around these things and give these kids some guidance. So this money they're receiving is around a long, long time, is a great foundation for what their future is after graduation. But I don't see that. And I don't mean to sound like an old curmudgeon, right? But the reality is it's got to change. Yeah.
Well, I think what you said, we had Owen Smith or I did on a different show one night. We were talking about it, and he said, when I got to the NFL and, I signed this contract, and he said, here they basically handed a 21-year-old kid, $150,000. He said, I went crazy. And he said, right. I'm sure I'm like every other young person, that gets a pocket full of money. Yeah. That it's like you said, they are adults, but they don't understand and they don't know. And it's just going to, like you said, go get worse until they get some parameters, structure around this thing. And places like WVU, Frank and I have talked about this at length as well. We're going to have a hard time staying in the game if it stays the way it is right now, because we don't have that financial backing that a lot of these places have, and it's going to get down to 10 different schools is going to be. That's where all the good players are going to be, and they're going to win all the championships or whatever, and the fans are going to pay for that part of it. But yeah, I agree. They've got to get some ropes around this thing somehow. Get it under control. Frank, I'm going to let you jump back in here before we have to wrap up with Matt. I'm sure you've got some burning questions you want to ask Matt before we go.
Well, we got to hear that story, Matt, about
that's right.
What happened years ago at Colasantes, and outside. Because just a little lead in, of course, you guys came back with resolve, took you all the way to the national championship game, but at the same time, fans were very interested in following you. And so tell the story about what you guys did that brought you to Colasante's and what happened after you got there.
And like I said, I think at the time it was called Westover Pizza, if I believe. And I think this was Kevin Koken's idea, one of our captains. And so, he and John Stroya would they got us together at the beginning of the season and say, hey, Thursday night, let's make it offensive lineman night. And so all the offensive linemen would go over to Westover Pizza right after a team meeting, after practice, and we would go to the buffet. And they obviously they had pizza and salad and all the pasta, everything, all the soda you could drink. And I believe it was $5. It may have been less than $5, but it was $5. And these poor people, we would just put they couldn't make pizzas fast enough, right? And so what happened is every week, more and more fans would come in. More and more fans would come in. And we got to be about 8-0, and now there's a line out the door to get in. And they sit there and watch us eat like it was the zoo. And so now we've got to be 9-0, and now TV cameras and news crews are coming in. There's vans with satellites outside watching a bunch of 275, 300-pound guys eating pizza, which sounds really embarrassing, but we all thought it was cool as all get out. And, we leave, we're signing autographs on the way out, all for $5. And it was, and I tell the story now to my wife. She's like, that sounds horrible. I'm like, you don't understand. We were like rock stars. I mean, truly, it was unbelievable. But it was funny and so I think that you said Westover, I think, burned down, and that is the new Colasante's, right?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah,
I think so.
But one of those memories. I try to explain to people just how passionate West Virginia fans are. And there's some things that are not lost on me. I remember we went to the Fiesta Bowl. I remember meeting people that took a second mortgage on their house to go. And, they would have fundraisers and they'd have garage sales to make enough money to buy plane tickets to go. And that's not lost on me. Those are things I'll never, ever forget. Because you just can't explain to people how passionate West Virginia football is.
That is for sure. And, one of the things I wanted to mention, actually two things, they're related, is that you mentioned Michigan State, one of the schools that recruited you. Well, I was there as a faculty member for almost 40 years. So I saw a lot of games there, saw games at Notre Dame, et cetera, et cetera. That game last Saturday night, at West Virginia was the best orchestrated, best presented college football experience I've ever been part of.
Wow.
It was just fantastic. From pregame, the band was fantastic. The light show that the fans put on. And the second part of that is that someone told me the next day, Terry Voigthofer, of course, Mickey knows Terry from back in the day, and Terry was co-captain of the 71 team. He was at the game. He came up for the Bobby Bowden weekend, and he said that he was leaving the stadium. Someone with a TCU sweatshirt came up and said, you guys really know how to do football. That's the best experience we've had in a football arena. And I told Terry, I said, I'll agree with that. That was just unbelievable. And I don't think the Mountaineers get enough credit for the show they put on, and not only the football, but the show that goes around the football. That was just first rate. From
the tailgate to the post game, it's. And I don't think the stadium gets enough credit either, Frank. It is. It's special, right? It sits down the valley. It's the acoustics are unbelievable. It's clean. It's beautiful. I wish they would focus a little bit more on what West Virginia has to offer, not just the fan base, but the players.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you two questions, really. First, to talk a bit about the 25 team as you see it and the job Rich Rod's doing and where we are, where we're likely to go. And then you're invited to stay with us as we talk about the Houston game if you want, totally your choice. But at the very beginning, let's get your thoughts about the 25 Mountaineers and Rich Rod doing his second act.
Yeah, I've been giving this some thought, and I think I feel bad for it. Now, Rich was a GA when I was there, right? So I know Rich. And you talk about a guy that's passionate about West Virginia football, but the expectations I think were a little too high. I think he's got to be in the seat a little longer and do what he's good at, and the focus on the portal has got to be a strong tool for them, and I wish that the fan base, and this is tough now with the NIL too, Frank. I wish the fan base was more patient, and the corporate money around West Virginia needs to be more patient, because you can't take a new coach with new staff. Probably, I don't know this for a fact, but probably new admin as well, and be instantly successful overnight. It just doesn't work that way. So, it's not, we don't have the money that a Michigan or Ohio State does. So you can't have instant success. We got to build it a little bit differently, and that's going to take a few years. But the good news is the acumen of a coach or the pedigree of the coaching staff, that's not in question. We don't have that problem. We just got to get our players to adapt, and we need to continue to recruit to have a successful program over several years, not just a hit or miss 1 year at a time.
Very good analysis. Very, very good. Do you want to stay with us as we talk about the Houston Cougars and the game coming up?
I'm happy to.
Very good. Greg, I'll kick it back to you and we'll do the pivot. And you're the winner of last week's Pick'em. In fact, I think you would have gotten it exactly right if the numbers were reversed. You were very close.
Yeah, I think I had West Virginia winning by 1. That was so when they couldn't quite get the onside kick, I sunk in my chair. I was very disappointed in that. But yeah, I would like to win just to see them win. But well, that's good. As long as I can beat Mickey, I'm happy. Like I said, that's Mickey the Greek. Yeah, Mickey the Greek. He picks them all right. I need to start getting him on my fan door a little bit, because I'm getting killed there too. So I need Mickey's help. I'm going to start going down and visiting him during the week and get some insight into the games. But yeah, I thought our guys competed. And I think we talked about it last week. One of the things we have to look forward in our team is how hard they're playing, and they're trying. I mean, they're playing hard, and I don't see you haven't seen any quit in them. And again, much like the BYU game, a couple of little things here and there could have made the difference. And I thought Scotty Fox played pretty well. He's a bright spot, I think. But even with him, some things that are going to be better in the years to come is his accuracy. There was a couple of times when he had people open probably for touchdowns and just underthrew them a little bit. Did that a few times, and that's going to get better. So I thought Saturday's performance was encouraging. I just hope we don't do the same thing we did after the BYU game and really come back and lay an egg the next week, because we've got a good opponent coming up, and we can't afford to let down. That's going to be tough on us. And I wonder how we'll perform on the road. I thought we did pretty well against BYU on the road. I think, I don't know how much of a factor that'll be, but Houston's playing pretty well right now. So tall task ahead, no question about it.
Absolutely. Mick, why don't you get in here and what's your rundown on the Houston Cougars?
Well, they've really had a turnaround in their program this year. Last year they were 4-8, and this year they turned it around to 7-1. A lot of people picked them to be in the bottom realm of the Big 12 this year, and they've proved a lot of people incorrect on that. The only team to beat them so far this year was Texas Tech. And Texas Tech did beat them by, a pretty good margin, but they had 3 turnovers in that game that cost them about 17 points. Houston did. But they're 4-1 in Big 12 play at this point, I believe. So the things that, concern me, in the game. Number one, their quarterback. Again, as we were talking before the show, dual threat guy. Once again, he's a transfer in himself, but I believe he's thrown for 12 touchdown passes and ran for 8, somewhere along those figures.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to keep an eye on him, keep him contained in the pocket. The passing attack, I think they're about 23rd, 27th in the nation so far this year. Of course, they're ranked number 22 in the nation right now. And their pass defense is up there at a high level as well. So we got our work cut out for us. It's another away game. But one of the things I think we have to account for is as the season moves on, these guys are improving. Our Mountaineers, week by week by week, getting a little bit better every week. So I expect us to go down there and have a good showing.
Well, your analysis is really spot on. A lot of us didn't know much about Willie Fritz, even though he has a tremendous record. Did a great job at Tulane before he went to Houston. And Houston, was on the mat. I mean, he's taken them from the mat and made them a contender. And they're right in the thick of things for the Big 12 championship. What's interesting about Houston, as you mentioned, in terms of their schedule, it's not the strongest schedule by any means in the Big 12. And couple things I would watch is they played Arizona and Arizona State back to back. That's not easy. They won both games, but in each game, these are the last 2 games they played, they got out ahead, and then they were outscored in those 2 games 30-3 in the fourth quarter. So the other team made a comeback, and I was thinking about what Matt was saying earlier about defensive linemen getting tired as the game goes on. Something's going on when the other team outscore you 30-3. Now that means you're ahead significantly, and that plays into it, obviously. But that's just one thing to watch. This, and you talked about a transfer with Connor Wigman, who's their quarterback. He's like the quarterback for BYU. Doesn't necessarily look the part. More of maybe a running back or a linebacker. But last week he had a 50-yard run against Arizona State. So this guy is a dual threat. He's the second leading rusher, as well, obviously, as a passer. You mentioned the numbers, impressive. He's at 64% in terms of his passing percentage. We gotta put pressure on him. He's got really good running backs. Watch out for Dean Connors, transfer from Rice. All these guys except one. Houston's their second act. And then the other thing I would say, let me see, I think I've got it on the back page here, is their kicker, Ethan Sanchez, transfer from Old Dominion. He's their place kicker, 16 of 19 on the year, 85%, with a 52-yard field goal. He already has 72 points scored this year. So if it comes down to the field goal game, he's very good from literally anywhere on the field. And you mentioned, and I'll close with this, about their defense. They're a balanced team. They're in the top 50, both in offense and defense, and their defense is ranked higher than their offense. It's 36th in the country, offense 72nd. But so we're gonna have trouble running the ball. And you heard Rich Rod this week saying that the reason we didn't see a lot of quarterback keepers last week is because of the quarterback room has been devastated and it's not very deep. And he said, we don't expect to see that a lot this week, which puts more pressure on the running backs, the ability to get that fourth down. So they're a really good team. They remind me a lot of Cincinnati coming out of nowhere. Both of those teams are the Arizona States of 2025.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things that's worrisome, Frank, is again that dual threat quarterback, and it's funny when you say he transfers from here. I've noticed watching games on TV. It used to be, they would say, well, this guy's a third year whatever junior or whatever, or he came out of this high school with that. Now everybody they mention, he transferred from Texas, he transferred from Old Dominion, he transferred. Everybody's a transfer. Everybody that plays is a transfer, and it's so hard to get a gauge on these teams before the season because you don't know how these guys are going to perform. They may have been really good at one school and for some reason not as good at the school they're at now, or vice versa. So you never know about these teams, and Houston, I think, it's kind of like that. You just don't know. But with the play of their quarterback, he's like that dual threat just really gives us problems, and worry about getting pressure on him. We first few games we seemed to really get pressure on the quarterback quite a bit, and we struggled with that some since then, and did a little better Saturday. But we got to get some pressure back here. It's hard, for those defensive backs to cover people for such a long period of time when there's no pressure, and that's going to be a big key, I think, to the game is just getting some pressure on him. And then on our side of the ball, we got to be able to run the ball a little bit, and again, we've done a little better at that this game this past week, but still not where it needs to be, and so that's pretty worrisome. I tell you what, let's do. We'll let I don't know. I think I went first last time, so we'll let somebody else pick first this week, and that way I can go 1 point under Mickey, and then we'll get Matt. We'll get Matt back in here and let him throw a prediction at us as well. So Mickey, you want to go first, or how you going to do this?
Sure. Yeah.
All right.
As much as I hate to say this, our O-line just isn't there yet, guys. We're not able to establish a running game, unfortunately, and we really can't throw the deep ball because we can't give the quarterback enough time. If he gets 3 seconds to get the pass out, we're doing pretty good. So that limits what you can do in terms of your deep threat. As much as I'm rooting for the Mountaineers, as much as I want to see us win, I'd have to call it Houston 31, Mountaineers 20.
All right, Frank, you want to throw yours in there?
Yeah, one thing I didn't say, and just going to key off Mickey again. It's almost like we're comparing notes here on the offensive line. That team already has 21 sacks this year and 12 forced fumbles. Eddie Walls has 5.5 sacks alone, and 3 guys, defenders, a linebacker, a defensive lineman, and a backside guy. Kentrell Cobb, a transfer from Tulane, probably came with Fritz. He's a defensive back. Carlos Allen from Kennesaw, he's the defensive lineman. And Jalen Gardner, he's a linebacker. He's the only guy that stayed with Houston. He was there earlier. They have, between the 3 of them, they have 150 tackles. And so that offensive line is going to be put under a lot of pressure. I have it 35-10, Houston. I absolutely hate picking against the Mountaineers, but it's just this team. I'm not going to say yet they're the best team in the league. They lost to Texas Tech. That was early. But would I be surprised to see them in the Big 12 championship game? I wouldn't.
Yep. And again, you guys, you and Mickey both do your homework, and your analytics are right on. And I think we struggle against these guys. I think their speed is going to hurt us. Our offensive line, it's so I was listening to Matt talking about these all-time greats at WVU, and then some more all-time greats backing them up, and a wave of linemen coming in one after the other, and now we just can't seem to get 5 that can gel together and get the job done, and it's been a huge struggle, and I know everybody knows that, and they're putting forth the effort, just not getting the job done yet. Hopefully, they get better, but I'm like you, I hate to pick against West Virginia. I rarely do that, but I'm going to have to go against them, and I'm picking Houston to win at 37-17. And with all
We're
that
close.
dismal
We're
projections,
close.
yeah. Well, I had 31-20, and then Mickey took it from me, and so I had to start figuring in my head again how many points you get for a field goal, and all that kind of stuff. So anyway,
Yeah.
we'll bring Matt back in. Matt, you wanna give us a little summation of what you expect to happen, and then your score.
Well,
And by the way, Matt, if you do win, Matt, man, do we have a cache of prizes to give away for the winner? So do your
I
best.
can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait. Well, I tell you what, Mickey's spot on, right? I mean, when I watch a football game, we all watch it differently, right? I watch the offensive line, and my wife gives me grief every time I watch a football game because all I do is critique the offensive line and never have anything good to say about the offensive line. Well, that's because when an offensive lineman does something good, that's what you're supposed to do, right? So you don't get accolades for doing what you're supposed to do. But if you look at the last 4 weeks, I'll say our offensive line is getting better. They're not where they need to be yet, and it comes down to time in the pocket that the quarterback needs, but we're collapsing way too soon. And I don't think it's a talent issue. I think it's a cohesive issue. I think you see defenses running schemes against us we're not picking up, and that's a problem. And I it's going to get corrected at some point. So unfortunately, I am not willing to bet against the Mountaineers. So I am going to plead the fifth and not give you a prediction. And I will pass up my cash prize. But I'm going to hope for the best.
Okay.
What an upset it would be, wouldn't it?
Absolutely be awesome. And I feel you. I understand where you're coming from. But just to be clear to all of our listeners out there and to Mickey, it's not a cash prize. It's a cachet of prizes.
Cachet. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Cachet.
Well, and you don't need it. You don't need it this week because the prize this week is a musket.
Well, yeah, I'm good.
And you already got one.
I am full of muskets.
He's already got one. Matt mentioned something, Frank, and I forgot to mention. It might have had something to do with the crown I was tipping on during the game, but I forgot this. How many times did TCU blitz and this linebacker or stunt, whoever it was, just came untouched, came clean, and right straight to our quarterback? I mean, that happened probably 3 times where it was just, they just bulldozed him. And, those were things, that's not talent right there. Like he said, that's cohesiveness. That's assignment football. You got to know, when that's coming, where it's coming from, whose responsibility it is. And right now we just don't know right now. And you could tell that from the game Saturday that we just gave up, some big time sacks there with the stunts that they ran. We just didn't pick them up. And you hope that can, those are things that are correctable. They can watch film and they can talk about it and figure out whose responsibility, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sure that they've been coached on it. It's just not sticking yet. And, that'll come. So yeah, that would be a great upset. And I understand where Matt's coming from, pleading the fifth there. I get it. I'd like to do that, cause I'm pulling hard for the Mountaineers. I hope all 3 of us miss it and they pull the win out. Would be awesome. But anyway, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Matt, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Great hearing from you. Great hearing the stories, and congratulations on your successes. And we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Greg, Mickey, Frank, thank you for having me on. I had a ball, and I appreciate all your kind words, and go Mountaineers.
All right. Thank you, Matt Wracher. And folks, you need to go back and watch some film and watch some YouTube videos and see these guys play because they were pretty daggone good. That's why I said it's so painful now. We talk about our offensive line. You look back then, we had so many good offensive linemen. They're not just good, Frank. They were great offensive linemen.
They were.
And, it's just amazing. You look back at that talent and you see why we were in the national championship. And it's I know Major Harris was awesome. A.B. Brown, also these backs, these receivers were all great. But that offensive line for WVU was something else. And that's why we were in the national championship game because of those guys.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And those memories are still fresh.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the great things about this show, obviously, guys, is we get a chance to talk to the guys that made it happen back in the day. And I was thinking
Frank,
about it the
I'm
other day.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we got to keep finding guys who played on that '88 team.
Yeah.
I got to find one that's going to say, "You're damn right. We should have let Major run it in the end zone. That's all we had to do." I got to find somebody that's going to say that. I just had no luck yet. Thought for sure
Yeah.
I'd get an offensive lineman and say absolutely.
Yeah. 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 I was going to say, just being at the stadium and looking over there, and Major's name is on this on the inside of the stadium in the the Wall of Fame, and so is Daryl Talley.
Yeah.
We've had them both on the show, and it's just a great pride. And boy, I'll tell you. So we'll pivot now and talk about, what should we talk about first, guys? Should we talk about? Well, we should probably talk about the pre and post game show, right?
Yep.
That's what we should probably do. Yeah.
Yep.
So
didn't mean to leave you hanging there, Frank. But
no, no, it's all right.
Make sure we get that in.
Yep. And Darren has got it on the screen. Might mention too, guys, that the kudos to Darren. This show is in 4K. When you think about a show like this, it's really throwing the bouquets to Darren to make it possible. When we were up in Morgantown, that was 4K too. So we're coming on. That's the post game show. Could you put the pregame show on just for a second there, Darren? And I'll talk about that first, because we're going to have some. I hope I didn't send you two post. I could have sent you two post game visuals rather than a pre and a post. I hope I didn't do that. He's looking. He's searching. There it is. Any rate, so I didn't send you two of the same. Good. Any rate, we have something that's unusual. Greg knows this, and that is, we always try to reach out to get guys who played the game. And we reached out to two guys, and they can both do the pregame show. So they're going to be with us. They'll be Greg, myself. We're going to talk about Mike. Both of the guys we talked about tonight. Mike Fox is going to join us for the pregame show, and so is Tanner Russell going to join us for the pregame show. So we'll be on at 10:30 to 11:30 on Saturday. Kickoff down in Houston is 12. Well, actually, it's 11, but they're in the Central Time Zone. But we'll be on from 10:30 to 11:30. Join us. And then after the game, the post-game show will be 15 to 25, 30 minutes afterwards. And it'll be Greg and myself. And again, it's interactive, so you can join us. And then next Wednesday, we have a return guest who is a blast. And Greg, I was listening to a show today. Sean Pryor has a show called Prior to the Snap, and he was actually talking about being on the show.
Oh, cool, cool. Let's go back and listen.
Yeah,
I listen to his podcast every now and then. He's a very entertaining guy.
Oh, he's unbelievable. Mickey, were you on when LaShawn was with us last? Does that ring a bell?
I was.
Oh, great.
I was.
Yeah.
He is a hoot. Hey, aren't we coming up? Is that going to be show 100? Are we coming up on show 100 here pretty soon, or have we passed it?
I think it might be the 100th show.
I think it is.
Let me check. I can check that real fast. I think it might be the 100th show. And it would be, great to. He's from Edmonds, Oklahoma. Great story, because at one time he was homeless.
Yeah.
And talk about a person who has transformed his life. He's the PA announcer for the Oklahoma City baseball team. I think they're the Dodgers, if I'm not mistaken. Has his own radio program, and is doing very, very well. And as Greg said, if you have a chance, prior to the snap, just Google it and go to it. He's an iHeartRadio. It's not a visual; it's just audio. But they are. I'll tell you, they're having a heck of a time down there this year, because they have nobody to root for.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State, forget it. Oklahoma, they're vicious. Texas, oh boy. And I'll tell you what, they don't like Nebraska, and they were talking about that today.
Yeah.
So they have no one to shoot, no one Maybe that's why LaShawn was talking about West Virginia.
It might,
nobody
yeah,
to root
anybody
for.
else talk about? Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. He is a good time. And Frank, one more thing here before we get off, and you guys chime in on this, but I don't understand these schedulers, and I know TV controls a lot of this stuff, but how is it fair that you go from the East Coast and you're going into another time zone and you're playing a noon game and 11 o'clock in the morning out there? I just don't, that just doesn't seem fair to me. Just like going out to Provo on a Thursday night. These schedulers, I don't know. You hate to be a conspiracy guy and say they're out to get us, but it seems like every raw deal that comes about on this scheduling,
Yeah,
we're taking the brunt of it, and I just don't understand.
that's right.
And I
Absolutely.
don't know
Yeah.
if you guys are watching or not, but I've got the World Series on, and the very first batter, the very first pitch, guy from Toronto just hit a home run
Oh wow!
off of Snell.
I tell
First
you,
pitch of the game.
they're giving the Dodgers everything.
Boy,
And
they can hit.
to your question, Mick, yes, it is the 100th show.
All
All
right.
right. All right. Well, we'll have to have some cake and ice cream then next time.
I think so.
All right. Darren, you going to think you can whip that up for us? Yeah. Didn't feel too promising, did it? Hey, and you said kudos again to Darren for the show. Being in the 4K, the fact that he was able to be in Morgantown and do the show from Castellino's. And all right, I'm getting really distracted here. Second pitch of the game, home run. Two pitches, it's 2-0 Toronto.
Whoa!
Yeah, Guerrero just hit one. So first two pitches. Anyway, I bet that's never happened ever in a World Series. I bet ever. Anyway, we were at Castellino's and Darren was there doing that, and then somehow made it all the way back to Oak Hill and showed the soccer game, which I flipped on and watched a little bit of with the perfect picture and all that. And so hats off to him again for what he's doing. Amazing work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I agree, 100%.
All right, guys. Well, it looks like we're, as the old Joe Nuxall used to say, rounding third and heading for home. Almost 8:15, so it's about time to get off here. I want to thank our guest, Matt Wracher, a great offensive lineman for WVU back in the national championship days. Thanks, Mickey, for all your input and insight. Always spot on with your analysis, and I can tell you do your homework. I'm glad you're feeling better. Glad you're back with us, Frank. Appreciate you and all the work you do. And most of all, we appreciate everybody tuning in and watching us tonight. Thanks to Darren for all the work that he does. We look forward to coming to you Saturday. We'll be here Saturday at, I want to make sure I get this right, 10:30. We'll be 10:30 to 11:30 on the pregame. And then we'll have the postgame about 30 minutes after the game concludes. So we look forward to all of that, as well as next Wednesday night. We hope you'll join us for that Sean Pryor episode, which will be a good one because he's a fun guy to talk to and to listen to, and I know we're going to enjoy it. So with all that being said, for Frank, Mickey, and Darren, we appreciate you again for tuning in to the Mountaineer Locker Room then and now on the New River Network and the Voice of College Football. Have a great evening, everybody. Good night.